be honest, 9 days of Blackout is a decent bit, but I'm nowhere near the top of the mountain. I'm nowhere near that master prestige rank and grind to level 1000 like others are, but to me, 9 days is a long time. That's almost as long as the entire vacation I'll be on as you're watching this video, except in actual Blackout matches. That's a bit crazy to think about. Over a week spent in the actual game, not just menu surfing, not loading in, just actually playing. To put it in perspective, even as a job, some years I don't even spend that much time on an entire game. Infinite Warfare is probably a prime example of that, but Blackout has done something that I know isn't the same for everyone, but for me, has recaptured that spark to want to get on and play for hours on end. When Blackout first launched, and even still to this day in some capacity, I had and still have that drive to jump on and play like I did when it was prime Black Ops 2, launch day or the first couple of months, grinding all night trying to stomp out the enemies with my friends, just having a good laugh along the way. I couldn't tell you the last time outside of streaming that I'd sit down and just chat with my friends and play for hours into the night, completely losing track and focus on the time. But Blackout absolutely recaptured that. Along the way, I feel like I've not only progressed throughout the mode to be a much better player from where I began, but I also feel like there can be a few things you can pick up here and there, some subtle nuances and tips that I think are worth sharing even as of now, 8 months into the game's life cycle. I know that some people have asked before for live comms of Blackout or some raw Blackout stuff, and I don't know how much I'll be able to incorporate that here into this video, but I did want to try and do something a little different with this one. So today we're going to take a look at what 9 days of Blackout will do and what it looks like. So first things first, one thing that I always end up getting asked whenever I bring up Blackout, whether that be either in comments or Instagram stories or Twitter, wherever it is, people ask for some information on the stats. Now I'll be one to tell you that I don't have the best stats by any means. I think that for the time given, they're decent and above average, but I'm not going to ever try and flaunt that I'm the greatest Blackout player alive or anything like that. I'm just playing. So what you'll see is that out of 9 days and 1 hour played out of this, that being 217 hours of in-game playtime, I've ended up accumulating 276 wins, 39 solos, 80 duos, 51 quads, and a lot of LTM wins, or limited time modes, a lot of that being Alcatraz. Kind of wish they had Alcatraz count towards your quad win total, because I like that win counter medal I end up having, but it's not displayed on the quads wins. But anyways, we end up seeing that that's roughly just about 1.2 wins every hour, which isn't all that bad. Could be better, sure, but when you consider that for every awesome amount of string of wins you put together, there could also be an equal and opposite amount of games that you drop in and you land right next to somebody who finds a gun and you don't, so you go right back to that lobby. Some matches could last 22 minutes, some matches could last 30 seconds. It really just comes down to the RNG and how you end up approaching it. In that time, I'm sitting just under 5,000 kills and a KD of 5.14, with an average of just under 4 kills a game, whether that be solos, duos, or quads. And again, that's cumulative across those 1,000 plus games. Average damage admittedly could be a lot better, though the recent paint can grind has kind of been kicking my behind for that one. And plus, a lot of the LTMs they end up playing don't really offer a lot in terms of damage compared to your regular quads, or hell, even Alcatraz is absolutely insane for damage. I'll probably average about 2,000 damage on Alcatraz each game. But anyways, that's where I stand up in terms of sheer statistics, but when it comes to mentality and how I approach things, that's where I think it can be a little bit more advantageous, and the nuances you'll see are picked up on. So here's where we kind of jump into my general thoughts and different recommendations for how you actually approach and play the game itself. One big one, and this is always key whenever you jump into it because it can help dictate where you want to spawn or jump into, that being know your stash locations. I've referenced this before in some of our pro tip videos, but there's an absolutely awesome utility called blackoutmap.com in which it showcases the overview of the map, and it's updated relatively frequently, so it should be on the current map anytime you check this out. And so there you'll also end up finding all sorts of different things you could end up plotting. You can end up finding out specifically where the stash locations are around the map. You could find out where the helicopter spawns are, the vehicle spawns, things like that. It's got just about everything you can imagine in terms of spawns in different locations. You could plot different distances. I know that one thing that came in handy that really is trivial, but I thought was really cool, is that during one of my streams, I ended up tagging somebody from just across the bridge, and they were on top of the cargo ships and the cranes there. I wanted to see how far that was, because while I didn't necessarily get the kills, I wanted to see, you know, if I would have gotten it, would I have gotten, say, Reznov in the character challenge done there? So you can plot those distances, and there's just a lot of cool things you can do with that. It's definitely a helpful tool to check out and use to your advantage, but outside of that, once you figure out where you want to drop, and maybe that is something that helps you consider a new drop point or new dropping main location, the thing you want to consider first is to kill first and loot as you go. Whenever you end up dropping into somewhere that's contested, don't worry about finding the best loot, just find whatever you can. Whether that be an RK7 pistol, a Mozu, a Strife, or you end up finding a Paladin, or I guess more so in an early game situation, something better than that is just any rifle in general. Any rifle, any SMG, just find that and then replace it if you find something better as you go along. But your first and biggest thing obviously is you just want to survive initially, so you hold down that area that you landed at. Then you can try and take over other locations as you move towards zone. When you end up getting out of that early game, when you can start looking towards your mid and late game engagements and setting yourself up for that one, you want to find your proper loadout. Personally, this differs depending on what map you're playing on, whether the standard Blackout map or Alcatraz, and what kind of playstyle you want to approach. Personally, I like to have something like a rifle and a longer ranged weapon like an ABR or a sniper of some sorts, because usually the rifle, if you're in close quarters, you can still pull off kills with that. Chances are, late game, you're not going to find all that many people running around with a Spitfire or anything like that, but that's not to say that it can't work. Personally, though, I just, again, find some comfort and solace in that rifle and longer ranged weapon play. If you're looking for specific weapons, the Rampart has a best-in-class damage per shot output, or DPS, of 46. The KN57 is the second with 40 DPS, and personally, I think the KN's mobility and versatility is a little better, but then you also have to consider your options of, say, the ICR, which has no recoil, the Maddox, which is probably the lowest on my tier list for weapons in Blackout, but it has the fastest fire rate of all the rifles. Grab whatever you want and how you think it will help your playstyle out, and then get ready for engagements of mid and longer range. Other things to consider are your utility and your perks that you can have on your selection and person. Personally, when I end up playing, I'm very selective with my perks. I end up picking up things like Dead Silence, Awareness, and Paranoia, primarily Paranoia more than anything else, especially when playing on the standard Blackout map. Earlier in the year, I would have said that Reinforced is an absolute must-have because of the concussion spam, but truth be told, I really don't think that I've seen anybody really concuss me all that much, if at all, as of recently, and I know if they have, I definitely haven't come close to dying because of it. So in that regard, it's kind of moved down my importance list here in my inventory, but things like, again, Awareness, Dead Silence, and Paranoia definitely are considerable. Other things, though, I'm personally into movement whenever I go into Blackout, so grapples are definitely something I'll take 10 of if I have the opportunity to, sometimes even 15. Frag grenades I will absolutely pick up because their explosive damage and radius is actually kind of wild. It doesn't have the multiple explosions like a cluster does, but the initial impact, if you're closer to that, you're going to do way more damage than a cluster grenade. Sensor darts, absolutely crucial. Pick those up if you end up finding one. And truthfully, things like mesh mines are great in quads play. Not everybody needs to take them, but if you have that role player that can take out a car coming at you guys with the mesh mines, in some instances, it's still a one-hit kill, so definitely worth picking up as well. When all's said and done and you have your loadout, you have those weapons, you have those utility, those perks, and anything else you may have, then it really comes down to just your engagements and, again, the subtle nuances of the right and wrong decisions on how to approach those. The biggest things that I can end up suggesting here out of all the playtime that I've had and all of the experience I've had in Blackout, firstly, is take the perimeter. I absolutely cannot stand whenever I'm playing with somebody and then they drive us right to the middle of zone. To me, that's the absolute worst location to be, because then you have a full 360 degrees that you have to be worried about. Now, granted, of course, if you play the perimeter, there is still the opportunity somebody could be behind you, but you at least limit that perspective of 360 degrees to roughly about maybe 180, 170, depending on what angle you're at on the edge of the zone. Now, granted, you're probably not also going to be riding zone, so again, there could be that small sliver of a building behind you or so, but at least it gives you more awareness of what's around you. You don't have to be conscious of, oh, there's a car 100 meters away over that bridge and there's a guy right next to us in the other building. You don't have to be worried about that all that much because you have probably more knowledge of the immediate surroundings than that of what is upcoming when you're at the center. Plus, when you're at the center of the zone, everyone's focusing around that point. Everybody's looking into you, whereas if you're on the outside, you're playing the outskirts and patrolling the area, you should be able to pick some people off. Plus, you'll also find a lot of campers out there, so it is something that you want to pick up a couple of free kills here and there. Maybe they'll be able to beat you in a gunfight, but a lot of the times you'll end up being able to pick up a kill or two just by simply, again, patrolling the outside of that. Additionally, have high ground if there is any at all times possible. Do anything you can so that you're not in a position where you have open area around you and you're looking up at somebody. That's just about the worst thing you can end up doing, because if you work yourself into that situation, you have to push to them with no cover. I'm thinking more so like on a hillside or maybe in a ravine, but those players then that are challenging you that have the high ground, they can step back and heal if they need to without really much fear of you being able to push up with too much guarding you in the first place. High ground is always important, whether that be again on a hillside, a ravine, a building, anything like that. It'll definitely just open up more opportunities to win that because you're using the environmental cover to your best advantage, and plus you have a better advantage as is because at that point they have to come to you. You know that. You can dictate that control of the gunfight then in that case. Additionally, talking dictating gunfire and dictating gunfights, use the environment and surroundings for your cover at all possible. Never take a gunfight in the middle of a field or anything like that because, well, you have no open cover. Even if you're the best of shots, somebody lands a couple of shots on you in an open field or open area, you don't have any cover to dip out and heal yourself, so at the very best, you can heal yourself while you're getting shot at, but at that same time, you won't be able to return fire. So you put yourself in an unwinnable situation almost at that point unless you hit some ridiculous shots or the other player is just absolutely terrible. And in that same right, never corner yourself either. Never put yourself into a situation where you lock yourself into, say, the bathroom or anything like that. Never lock yourself into a corner of a building. Never lock yourself on the lower side of a wall. Things like that just produce unescapable pinches that will more than likely lead to your death and send you back to that main menu. One of the biggest ones that I've learned over that 9 days of playtime is also predict another gunfight. Predict the engagements you're going to get into. Firstly, listen to the surrounding areas around you. Is there any gunfire going off? If so, you can kind of pinpoint a relative location on where these other players may be and other approaching gunfights and players towards you. But if you end up getting in a gunfight, immediately expect another one. I've been pinched by 2-3 other teams way too many times to put my guard down at this point now, where if I end up getting a kill, I'm already expecting another one. You might see in some of the gameplay, if I can find some of the recent footage here of it, there was a couple of solos where I swear people just came out of the woodworks and waited right next to a gunfight to try and pick you off. But if you're ready for those, you'll be able to anticipate and get out of them again, instead of putting your guard down and getting taken out immediately. So definitely predict those gunfights, have a relative mental map of where players may be for gunfire that you may have heard, and always have your guard up. Additionally, the final thing we'll round out here with this so we don't keep it to go too long is clear comms. That is one of the biggest things. If you play with friends, it is a night and day difference between saying over there or north 15 or helipad of construction. Something that is definitive, clear cut, and definitely concise can help you in every gunfight possible. I'm sure we've all played with that guy, or maybe we are that guy who ends up just saying over there, and eventually our team can't spot them and we get wiped. It's happened to all of us, and if it hasn't, well, it might happen at one point. The odds are that it will. So as much as you can decrease the chances of that happening, the better off you're going to be, and the better off you're going to be able to counter a flank or an ambush of some sort in your own matches. But that said, that's a couple of things that I've picked up here on within my 9 days of playtime. Again, I don't ever think that I'm going to be the best Blackout player ever. I don't think that I am even anywhere near that. And of course, there are people that are way further down the grind and may have some things to add to this, may take away, whatever it may be. But I wanted to share my thoughts here with this because over the past couple of months, I've had so many comments on various different locations saying, hey, can you do some Blackout stuff in terms of a live comm or give us a little bit more of an insight into your thought process and that kind of stuff? So I figured, why not share a little bit of where I've been in Blackout and also give you some relative heads up tips as well. So hopefully this helped out. Hopefully this was insightful in some way, shape, or form, but definitely I know it's a little bit different than our normal content, so hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, MP, Blackout, Zombies. We got you covered the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best place to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. Well, that's it out of the way. Thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.